You've seen it before. The moment you stop chasing, stop texting, stop being the one to always initiate contact, the silence falls between you like a heavy curtain, thick and suffocating. It feels like you're disappearing into the void. You can almost hear the echoes of their thoughts, can't you? They've given up, they say to themselves. They're weak, they're defeated. I've won. But here's the hard truth. They're wrong. So very wrong. They don't understand that your silence isn't surrender. It's strategy. It's not the end of your game. It's just the beginning of their defeat. You've probably found yourself in this cycle before, endlessly texting, reaching out, giving more of yourself while they just sit there, passive, taking it all in. And each time you pour your heart into those words, each time you throw yourself out there, hoping for some kind of response, you lose a little piece of yourself. But the moment you decide to stop, the moment you pull back and let silence take over, that's when the game changes. What if I told you that in this silence you were the one in control? What if I told you this moment of withdrawal, of stopping the chase, was the exact thing that will force them to finally see you? Think about it like this. In every relationship, there are two types of people. The ones who give and give, always showing up, always chasing, always needing reassurance. And then there's the other kind, the one who understands that value isn't in the chase. The one who knows their worth is not determined by how many times they text or call. The one who recognizes that silence speaks louder than any words could ever. This isn't weakness, this is strength. And the moment you realize that, the moment you stop feeding into their need for validation, is the moment the power shifts. You see, their victory was never real. It was just an illusion created by your own constant need to show up, to make them feel important. They mistook your emotional generosity for weakness. But you know better now. The greatest victory is that which requires no battle. Sun Tzu. When you stop fighting, when you stop chasing, that's when the real battle begins. It's the battle within yourself, the one where you stop depending on someone else to validate your worth. And it's the battle that forces them to see your value, not in the way they thought they could control it, but in the way you hold it within you, silently. But they won't get it right away. They'll think you're giving up. They'll mistake your peace for defeat. They'll look at your distance and believe you're weaker than ever. But let's be clear, this is exactly what you want them to think. It's part of the plan. Your silence doesn't mean you're giving up. It means you're finally choosing yourself. And when you choose yourself, you become the person they never truly valued. They only valued your need for them. But when you withdraw, when you stop desperately seeking their approval, you become someone entirely different, someone they can't control. Silence is a source of great strength. Lao Tzu. Ever notice how the people who never seem to chase, who never seem to worry about whether their partner is texting back, are the ones who are most desired? That's because they've tapped into something deeper. They understand that silence doesn't mean weakness. It's a form of power, a way of setting boundaries without uttering a word. And it forces the other person to confront their own insecurities, their own need for validation. Take a moment and think about it. How many times have you sat there, staring at your phone, waiting for a text that never came? How many nights have you wondered if they were thinking about you, just to end up feeling disappointed by the silence? You were chasing, you were giving, you were emotionally available, but they were never fully there. They took and took while you waited, hoping for something to change. But then, the silence. You finally stopped. And the moment you stopped, the moment you pulled back your energy, something shifted. They couldn't understand it. At first they thought it was a game, a trick. They didn't know if you were playing hard to get or if you had truly lost interest. But here's the kicker. They started wondering. They started needing you again in a way they never did when you were constantly there. Your absence became louder than your presence ever could. The way is not in the sky. The way is in the heart. Buddha. You see, this is where the dark Stoic psychology comes into play. Stoicism isn't about bottling up your feelings or pretending you don't care. It's about recognizing your own power, your own autonomy, and using that inner strength to detach from the things you can't control. And when it comes to relationships, that means no longer attaching your worth to the approval of someone who can't see it. When you choose silence, you reclaim your power. You stop chasing their attention, their approval. You stop falling into the trap of thinking that love equals constant communication, constant reassurance, constant effort. You realize that true strength lies in your ability to be at peace, regardless of whether or not they reach out. But here's where it gets interesting. When you stop needing them to validate you, when you stop waiting for the call, the message, the apology, that's when they'll start wanting you. They'll feel the absence, the space you've created between you, and they'll try to fill it. But by then, you'll be gone. Not physically, but emotionally. You'll be stronger than ever, and they'll be left chasing you in a game they'll never win. To be able to endure and remain silent is the secret to all power. Seneca. So let's stop pretending like your silence is a sign of defeat. It's your strategy, your power, your path to victory. They think they've won. They haven't even begun to understand the game. Because while they're chasing fleeting distractions, you're building yourself up, growing, and becoming someone they'll never forget. You're becoming the version of you they never deserved, but the version they'll never be able to replace. This is your time. This is your moment. Stop waiting. Stop chasing. Stop seeking validation. Own your silence and let them misunderstand it as defeat. Because while they're busy playing their games, you're already on your way to victory. Say this out loud. My silence is my strength. Write it down. Declare it. Live it. Stay with me. We're just getting started. Number 1. Silence is the space where your worth blossoms. Imagine a seed buried deep in the earth, unnoticed by the world above. It lies in silence, its potential hidden beneath layers of dirt and time. No one sees it, no one hears it, but that silence is what allows the seed to gather strength. It's in that stillness where roots take hold and something powerful is growing, unseen, waiting for the right moment to break free. Your silence in relationships works in the same way. When you stop chasing, when you stop pleading for attention, you create the space for your true worth to blossom. You've been taught to believe that silence is defeat, that by not constantly reaching out, by not endlessly texting or calling, you're somehow losing the battle. But here's the truth. Silence isn't a sign of weakness. It's the pause before your growth is revealed. It's the space where you realign with yourself, where you gather the strength to stand tall, just like that seed beneath the soil. If you let the noise and chaos of the world distract you, you'll never see your own transformation. But when you embrace silence, you give yourself the time and space to grow into the person who no longer chases love, but attracts it effortlessly. Think about the most magnetic people you know. They don't need to shout their worth from the rooftops. They simply exist, fully themselves. And the energy they exude is irresistible. It's in their quiet confidence, their self-assuredness, that they pull people toward them. Your silence becomes the space where your worth blossoms, where you shed the need for external validation and start standing in your own power. Relationships will come and go, but when you know your value, you don't need to chase anyone. You become the garden others want to visit, not because you beg for attention, but because your growth speaks for itself. You may have been taught that in love, silence means you're not trying hard enough. That if you don't constantly give, constantly reach out, constantly show affection, you'll lose them. But the truth is, silence is what gives you the clarity to understand your own worth. And only when you understand your own worth can you truly attract a partner who sees you for who you are, not for what you give. You've been taught to perform, to give everything of yourself until there's nothing left. But that's not love, that's sacrifice. True love starts when you stop performing and start being. Silence is a source of great strength, said Lao Tzu. And it's in your silence where you discover your true power, where you finally stop worrying about whether someone will come around to appreciate you. Because in that silence, you're no longer waiting for validation from someone else. You've already validated yourself. You've learned to stand in your own garden, with your roots planted firmly in the ground, trusting that your beauty will bloom when the time is right. Imagine this. You're in a relationship where communication has been a constant tug of war. You've always been the one initiating contact, keeping the conversation alive, trying to keep the connection intact. But then, one day, you stop. You stop texting first. You stop filling the gaps with empty words. And what happens? For the first time, you give yourself the space to breathe, to be. And what's fascinating is this: your absence, your silence, creates a gap in their life, a space where they start to feel the void. The power you gain in silence doesn't come from being distant or cold. It comes from standing in your truth, knowing that you don't need to fight for someone's attention. When you stop chasing, you start attracting. In silence, you start to realize that relationships are not about who chases harder, but about who respects themselves enough to give space to the other person. Relationships are meant to be shared, not battled for. When you're comfortable in your own silence, you communicate more deeply with yourself, and that's the foundation for any healthy, lasting connection. You stop seeking approval, and instead, you start demanding respect, not through words, but through your actions, through your silence. The right person will see that strength in you and recognize it immediately. The person who is meant for you won't mistake your silence for defeat. They'll see it as the space you've created for something more meaningful to grow. You are not defined by the noise around you. You are defined by your ability to be still, to be centered, and to trust that your worth is not something to be earned. It's something to be recognized. In the silence, your value is clearer than ever. And when that value is clear to you, it's only a matter of time before the right person sees it too. So, what do you do now? Embrace the silence. Step back. Give yourself the time and space to grow without constantly reaching out. Your silence is not defeat. It's your path to victory. You are the seed that is growing, becoming stronger with every moment of stillness. You are the garden that doesn't need to scream for attention. Your beauty will draw people in. Say this with me. In my silence, I find my power. Write it in the comments. Claim your worth. And if this message resonated with you, like the video and subscribe to the channel. We're working hard to bring you life-changing lessons that will help you recognize your own value and, in turn, attract the love you deserve. Remember, you are not defeated. You are just in the quiet before the bloom. Number 2. In silence, you reveal your true power, emotional sovereignty. Imagine this. You've just been hurt, betrayed, or let down in a relationship. You want to scream, to shout, to demand an explanation, but instead you choose silence. You sit there in the quiet, holding back your emotions, and in that silence, a powerful transformation begins. What others mistake for weakness, you understand as your ultimate source of strength. Because in that moment, when you choose to be silent, you are no longer a victim to your emotions. You are in control. This is what true emotional sovereignty looks like, the ability to command your emotional state without being swayed by the actions or words of others. You stop being the puppet, reacting to every pull of the strings. Instead, you take control, and the world around you begins to shift. Your silence isn't defeat, it's your declaration of power. A quote by the Stoic philosopher Epictetus captures this perfectly. Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. In relationships, it's easy to get caught up in the need for validation, for closure, for apologies. But real power comes from within, from the ability to stand alone in your silence, free from the need for external approval. When you stop chasing someone's attention or approval, you free yourself from the chains of emotional dependency. That's where true power lies, in being unshakable, no matter the storm around you. Think of a tree in the middle of a storm. The wind howls, the rain pounds, and yet the tree stands firm, its roots deep in the earth, unmoved by the chaos around it. Your silence is like those roots, deep, grounded, and unshaken by the external world. In relationships, it can be tempting to chase after answers, to try to manipulate outcomes, to control how others see you. But when you stop, when you pause, and when you refuse to react impulsively, you show your strength in the most profound way. You're not moved by the noise of others. You're rooted in your own truth. This is the power of emotional sovereignty. You no longer need someone else to validate your worth. You don't need them to acknowledge your pain, your value, or your worthiness. In the silence, you give yourself permission to heal, to grow, and to rise without needing to explain yourself or justify your emotions. You are enough on your own, and when you realize this, you free yourself from the emotional roller coaster that chasing others' approval inevitably brings. People will mistake your silence for defeat, and that's okay. The world is obsessed with noise and chaos, always needing to be seen and heard. But in the quiet, there is profound strength. Think about how the most precious diamonds are formed, under pressure, in the quiet depths of the earth. Your silence is not the absence of action, it's the moment of transformation. The stillness is the place where you harness your energy and rise above the emotional turmoil others may be experiencing. When you choose silence, you are not suppressing your emotions. You are mastering them. You are not allowing your happiness, your peace, or your sense of self to be dictated by anyone's actions or words. The more you embrace this emotional sovereignty, the more you begin to attract those who are capable of respecting your energy, not draining it. Those who understand your silence will be the ones who recognize your true worth, and those who don't will eventually fade away. In relationships, it's easy to believe that silence means you've lost. You may fear that by stepping back, by not pursuing or constantly giving, you'll push someone away. But the opposite is true. Silence is magnetic. When you stop seeking approval, when you stop texting, calling, or begging for attention, you suddenly become the person everyone wants to understand. Your mystery, your inner peace, your emotional independence become your greatest attraction. Remember this: true power is not in the chase. It's in the choice to stop. When you stop chasing, you allow the universe to bring the right energy to you. People who are emotionally available and capable of meeting you on your level will be drawn to you. And those who cannot handle your silence will be left behind. That's not your loss. It's their inability to match your emotional strength. You don't need to explain your silence. You don't need to justify why you're choosing not to respond, not to engage. Your silence speaks for itself. It's a message that says, I am whole. I am worthy. I don't need to beg for what should come naturally. The right person will come to understand this. They will recognize your worth, not through your words or actions, but by the very fact that you don't need to prove it. So, say this out loud right now. I am in control of my emotions. My silence is my strength. Feel the power of those words. You are not weak. You are not defeated. You are taking control of your emotional sovereignty. And in doing so, you will begin to attract not just the love you deserve, but the peace, respect, and inner fulfillment that comes from knowing you are enough, all on your own. If this resonates with you, leave a comment below with the affirmation, "My silence is my strength." And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel, as we're dedicated to bringing you powerful lessons like this, so you can reclaim your emotional sovereignty and create the life and love you truly deserve. Stay strong, stay silent. You're on the path to victory. Number 3, your absence forces them to see what they took for granted. Imagine this. You're standing at the edge of a beautiful cliff, watching the horizon, knowing that you're about to let go of something familiar. Your heart races, your palms sweat, but you know deep down that the moment you take that step, everything will change. They think you'll never let go. They think your silence means you're defeated, that you're broken, that you can't move on. But the truth is, your absence is the exact thing they need to finally see what they took for granted all along. In relationships, we often give so much of ourselves, our time, our attention, our love, that we forget we are worth more than the space we occupy in someone else's life. And it takes stepping away to remind them of that. You've given them everything, and they've treated it like it's easy to come by. But when you pull back, when you stop fighting for their attention, they begin to see the emptiness you've been filling in their life. Your absence forces them to confront something they never thought they'd face, the reality that they were taking you for granted. There's a saying, you don't know what you have until it's gone. It's a harsh reality, but it's the truth. When you stop chasing someone who has never truly appreciated you, when you withdraw emotionally, it forces them to finally notice the things they never valued. The quiet becomes deafening. The space you once filled with love, care, and energy is now a void they can't ignore. And as time passes, they begin to feel the weight of their own neglect. They may not admit it, not right away, but deep down, they know something has changed. And it's all because you stopped being there when they expected you to be. Think of it like a garden. When you water a plant every day, giving it all the nutrients it needs to grow, it becomes easy to forget that it's the gardener who made it thrive. The plant starts to grow strong, but it never really appreciates the gardener. That is, until the gardener walks away. Now, the plant is left to fend for itself. It starts to wither, to lose its vibrancy, and it suddenly realizes that the gardener was the one who gave it life. Your absence, much like that gardener, is the wake-up call they desperately need. The garden is not going to flourish without you, and neither will they. Your silence doesn't come from weakness. It comes from the realization that you've been giving more than you've been receiving. You've poured your heart into someone who never truly understood what they had. They were so caught up in the distraction of life, so wrapped up in their own world, that they never paused to appreciate your presence. But when you pull back, They are forced to face the consequences of their indifference. You see, they thought they could take your love for granted. They believed you would always be there, always available, always ready to give more. But they were wrong. You've finally seen the truth. You're not their backup plan, and your silence is not defeat. It's a declaration. You're showing them that you will not chase after someone who doesn't value you. And trust me, that is exactly what they need to hear. Because in their rush to take you for granted, they never realized that they might lose you until you were no longer there. But here's the catch. You're not doing this to hurt them. You're doing it because you love yourself enough to walk away from someone who only made you feel invisible. Your absence is not a punishment. It's your path to reclaiming your power. It's the moment you stop trying to fit into a space where you're not valued. And in this space of self-respect, you will attract someone who recognizes your worth. Not because you begged them to, but because you commanded it with your silence. And yes, they will regret it. In time, they will realize that they didn't value the one person who was always there for them, the one person who gave without asking for anything in return. They'll regret not seeing your worth when it was in front of them. And by the time they figure it out, you will have moved on. You will have grown into a stronger, more empowered version of yourself. And that's the victory. So say it with me now. I will not be taken for granted. Your silence is your strength, and it will remind them and you of what you deserve. Write this affirmation in the comments below. My absence is my power. And remember, this is just the beginning. By stepping away, you're not losing, you're winning. If this message resonates with you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. We're working hard to create these life-changing lessons for you, and we want you to be part of this journey. Stay with us. Number 4. Silence is a mirror, reflecting the truth of who they are. Imagine standing in front of a mirror, but instead of your own reflection, you see someone else. You see their actions, their motives, their character, laid bare, with no hiding place. That mirror? It's your silence. And it's the most powerful tool at your disposal. It doesn't speak, yet it tells them everything they need to know about themselves. In relationships, we often feel the need to shout, to plead, to make noise in an attempt to be heard, to be understood, to make them see our value. But here's the brutal truth. Real power comes not from making noise, but from silence. Silence is the ultimate mirror. It reflects not only your worth, but also the truth of the other person. The longer you remain silent, the clearer their reflection becomes. Their true character will be revealed in that silence, and it's in that space that you gain the clarity to see whether they are worthy of your time, your love, your energy. But who fed you the lie that silence equals weakness? Who told you that withdrawing and stepping back is a sign of defeat? It's the complete opposite. Your silence doesn't say that you've given up. It says you're no longer willing to play the game of proving your worth to someone who doesn't deserve it. It's a mirror that forces them to reflect on what they've lost, what they've taken for granted, and more importantly, who they truly are. Think about it. When you stop chasing them, stop reaching out, stop being the one who bends over backward to keep the connection alive, what happens? They're forced to look at themselves. In that mirror, they can no longer see you desperately trying to fit into their world. All they see is their own emptiness. Your silence reveals their indifference. It shows them that you are no longer a part of their narrative unless they choose to show up in a meaningful way. The absence of your energy is a reflection of their own inability to value what was right in front of them. It's the truth they didn't want to face, but now they have no choice. The poet Rumi once said, "Don't grieve. Anything you lose comes round in new form. When you remove yourself from the equation, they're left standing in front of the mirror, trying to piece together what's missing. But that loss doesn't just reveal the void where you once were, it reveals who they are without you. And that can be an uncomfortable truth. You see, people often mistake silence for an opportunity to break you down. They assume that if you're not chasing, you've given up, that you've conceded defeat. But that silence is exactly what forces them to ask themselves hard questions. Where did I go wrong? Why isn't this person fighting for me? Why don't they need me like they used to? They will search for answers in places they never thought to look. They will face themselves, and it won't be pretty. Because in your silence, they realize that they were never as important to you as they thought they were. That you have built a life, a strength, and a peace that doesn't require their validation. This is the power of silence. It doesn't need to be loud to have an impact. It doesn't need to demand attention to be felt. It simply exists and reveals the truth. When you let your silence speak, you're letting the person see what they are really made of. And the truth can be brutal. Now, I know this may be difficult to hear, but in their silence, they will also come face to face with their own shortcomings. The person who didn't value you when you were there, the one who took you for granted, the one who never put in the effort to understand you, they will have to face their own reflection. The more you embrace your silence, the more they will feel the weight of their own actions. Your silence becomes the tool that forces them to either rise to the occasion or fade into the background. And while they are trying to figure out who they are without you, you're busy forging a path forward. You've already won. Your silence doesn't just reveal who they are, it reveals who you are: strong, self-sufficient, and resilient. You're no longer tethered to the idea that someone else's approval or affection defines your worth. You define it. So affirm with me right now: I don't need to chase. I don't need to beg. My silence speaks volumes. Say it out loud. Let the world hear your strength, your self-respect, your understanding that the right person will always see you, even when you're silent. Stop it. Stop waiting for them to figure it out. Let them take a hard look at their reflection. Stay with me. We're not done yet. When you embrace your silence, you invite only those who can truly see your worth to step forward. You don't need to prove yourself anymore. You've already shown them who you are. It's time for them to see who they are, and when they do, you'll be ready for the love and respect that's truly meant for you. If this message resonates with you, if you're ready to reclaim your power and stop chasing people who don't deserve your energy, like this video, subscribe to the channel and join us on this journey of self-discovery and transformation. We're working hard to create life-changing lessons that will help you thrive in relationships and in life. Number 5. The quiet after the storm is where real connection lives. Have you ever noticed how the world seems to breathe a little easier after a storm? The air smells fresher, the silence feels fuller, and there's a sense of renewal that blankets everything. Relationships are much the same. The chaos, the noise, the constant chase, it all eventually burns out. But it's what comes next that reveals who truly belongs in your life. The quiet after the storm is where real connection begins to take root. In relationships, we often mistake noise for intimacy, believing that constant communication, endless effort, and the drama of emotional highs and lows are signs of closeness. But the real magic, the real connection, doesn't come from all that noise. It comes in the space between it all, in the stillness after the storm, where you finally find clarity, where both people can truly see each other without the distractions of games, manipulation, or insecurity. In the silence, we hear the truth of what was always there. That's not just a nice saying, it's a reminder of how vital space and stillness are in building real, authentic relationships. Your silence, when it comes from a place of inner strength and emotional mastery, is not a void. It's a magnet, pulling the right people toward you. When you stop chasing, when you stop filling the silence with words meant to please or convince, you allow both yourself and your partner to settle into the truth. It's in this moment that you'll know if they are truly aligned with who you are, or if they were just attracted to the noise of your emotions. Think of it like two people who've been caught in a whirlwind of misunderstandings and missed signals. At first, they were swept up in the excitement of new feelings, constant conversations, the need to fill every moment with something. But then, the storm passes, the chatter dies down, and suddenly, they are left alone in the quiet. No more distractions, no more drama. And this is where the truth emerges. This silence will either lead to a deeper connection or a painful realization that the relationship was built on nothing but noise. You will either find that you connect on a deeper level, that your bond is stronger than the words you once spoke, or you'll discover that the silence only amplifies the distance between you. Either way, the quiet reveals the truth, and that's a victory in itself. Let me tell you something crucial. Your silence is not a weapon of defeat. It's a declaration of your value. When you stop reaching out, stop pleading, stop forcing communication, you send a message that says, I am not here to fill your emotional gaps for you. I am not here to fight for your attention. If you want me, you'll show up. And here's the thing, the person who truly values you, who truly desires a deep connection, will rise to meet you in this quiet. They won't run from it. They won't get scared by the lack of constant reassurance. Instead, they will respect the space and come forward with genuine intent, eager to build something real. This is the point where true intimacy lives, not in the drama of uncertainty, but in the calm of mutual respect and shared understanding. In the quiet, you learn something about yourself as well. You see your worth clearly, without the noise of self-doubt or the need for validation from someone else. The space between the storms of emotional chaos and reaction is where your own strength is revealed. You don't need constant contact to feel worthy. You don't need them to chase you to feel loved. You are already whole. Your silence is your way of telling the universe and the person you're with that you are not desperate for love. You are ready for a connection that is meaningful, grounded, and authentic. And when you get to that place, the right person will see it too. So, as you sit in this quiet, understand that it is not a sign of surrender. It's your path to victory. You are not lost in the silence. You are found. Stop worrying about whether your silence will make them leave. If they were meant to stay, they'll find a way through it, understanding that silence speaks louder than empty words. It's a place of renewal, a space where both people can stop performing for each other and start truly being. And remember, if they don't appreciate the quiet, they won't appreciate you when the noise returns. So, if you're still here, still listening, take a moment to affirm your own power. Say this out loud. I am not afraid of the quiet. It is where my true strength lies. And don't just stop there. Go ahead and like this video and subscribe to the channel. We're working hard to create life-changing lessons that can help you transform the way you think, love, and connect. You are not alone in this journey. Your path to victory is already unfolding. Stay with me, because we're not done yet. Number 6. Your silence draws a boundary that defines your self-worth. Ever notice how people only truly respect what they can't have? That's the power of setting boundaries with your silence. It's like a garden wall, silent, steady, and strong, standing between you and the chaos outside. When you refuse to chase, refuse to beg, or refuse to continuously prove your worth, you're not giving up. You're giving yourself the power to be the one who chooses. Boundaries are not walls. They are the gates to self-respect. Your silence isn't weakness. It's a declaration that you deserve to be valued. You're saying, I am not available to be ignored. I am not here for half effort. I am worthy of love that doesn't need to be earned or fought for. The moment you stop chasing someone who isn't treating you the way you deserve, you're setting an invisible yet powerful boundary. It's the same as saying, I will not bend or break to fit into a relationship that does not honor my soul. Your silence tells them that you are not a game, not a backup plan, not a safety net. You're a person worthy of real, unconditional love. And if they can't offer that, then they don't get to occupy your mind, your heart, or your time. You've just closed the door on anything less than what you deserve. But who fed you the lie that silence is defeat? Stop it. Your silence is your strength, your self-respect. It's in these moments of pause where you regain control. Every second you choose to stay silent instead of reacting, you are choosing yourself over the chaos. You're saying, I do not need your validation to know I am worthy. And here's the truth. Real love, the kind that will last, will never mistake your silence for weakness. It will honor the boundary you've set. It will respect your space, and it will earn your presence by showing you they deserve it. So affirm with me right now, I set boundaries because I love myself. I am worthy of respect and true, undivided love. If you're finding value in these lessons, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel. We're working hard to bring you life-changing insights that will transform your relationships and attract the right kind of love into your life. Stay with me. We're not done yet. You're just getting started on your journey to victory.